Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome back to our series, Pagan Tales. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about the Greek goddess Iris. We have a lovely illustration of her for you to examine by the artist Josephine Wall, who has such a beautiful grasp on the complexities and just the sheer gorgeousness of many of these pagan icons. But as you might have gleaned from the picture, the Greek goddess Iris was the personification of the rainbow. She was considered to be a messenger of the gods, right there on par with Hermes, considered to be his feminine counterpart. And in some tales, it seems to indicate that Iris was actually specifically in the service of the goddess Hera when she wanted messages taken to and fro places. Iris, for this reason, was considered to be a link between mortal man and the gods. Now, her family tree, which only has one complication that I found, which must be a record whenever we do this series related to Grecian gods. But her father was Theumas, who was a sea god, not the sea god. Obviously, that would have been Poseidon, but still, nevertheless, he was natural area. Her mother was Electra, an ocean nymph. And then her siblings were Arche, a messenger of the Titans. Now, the interesting thing about this is that because the Titans and the Olympians tended to be at odds, Arche, by extension, was considered to be the arch nemesis of Iris. Iris is also sibling to the Harpies and to the Hydaspes. Her husband was Ziphoros. When she is mentioned as being married at all, sometimes there's a little bit of wishy-washiness on that front. But when she is mentioned as being married, it is to Ziphoros, who was a god of the west wind. And together they had a son called Pothos, who was the personification of desire. Now, interestingly, and this is where, things are a little bit odd and complicated with Iris, is that sometimes her son with Zephyros is called Eros. Now, Eros, as you know, is very much considered to be the son of Aphrodite. So, how that got crisscrossed in the myths, I don't pretend to know. If that something is of interest to you, then definitely go ahead after this video and do a little bit of investigation to see, why does this seem to be this confusion over who exactly is the mother of Eros? Who knows what kind of rabbit hole you might find. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Now, a few correspondences for the goddess Iris. The first is the zodiac sign of Virgo, which again is a reference to the more modest, maidenly, subdued image that Iris is sometimes portrayed as having. Someone who isn't necessarily married to Zephyros, but someone who, once they are married, of course, is very committed to that. So the essence of the sign of Virgo is very consistent with the nature of Iris. Her colors are, of course, every single color of the rainbow, every single one. If you were wanting to honor her and dress up an altar, I would suggest using more colors, not less. Of course, obviously, that her flower is the iris for just obvious reasons. And interestingly, the iris flower, it actually comes in a startling array of colors. So if you were really feeling connected with this goddess, you could actually make this crazy quilt of irises of all sorts of shades of color of the rainbow and have that be a special spot for her. Just an idea if you're interested in. She's also associated with the plant, the orris root. Orris root is also the root of the iris plant, and with wormwood. Her stone is rainbow obsidian. Again, we're going to have this continuing theme of rainbows and, multicolors and shimmering and iridescence and all of that. The bird she's associated with is the peacock. And I wonder if that comes in perhaps with her link with the goddess Hera. Hera, of course, is associated with peacocks as well. So this might be an extension of that relationship. Iris is associated with the bee insect, and her symbols include rainbows, a pitcher, usually that's being poured out, because she was also known as a cupbearer for the nectar and ambrosia of the gods, but also of the catecheus staff. And this is not to be confused with the staff of medicine that Apollo is known for. This is related, but not exactly the same. And of course, it has the wings and let's see, I'm not sure if in the previous slide her wings really showed off. Oh yeah, in the image in the painting, her wings are implied. I wouldn't say they're necessarily really out there, but I do feel like you feel this. There's an impression of wings, and she is usually depicted with wings. And as far as the rest of her physical appearance, from what I read, it really depended a bit on her mood. You know how some people have, mood eyes, and depending on how they're feeling, they might be a little bit more hazel, they might look blue, they might look green. Apparently, Iris is like that with her entire being. So that was kind of an interesting little tidbit I picked up on researching her. Now, the powers of Iris, of course, are communication. She's not called a messenger of the gods for nothing, but it is specifically communication that is facilitating an interchange between mortals and gods. So, likely, if you also want to be contacting the goddess Hera, Iris might be a very good go-between. Or if you're working with the Olympians in general, and you can't seem to get a connection to Hermes, Iris is another opportunity for you to try to make that connection to perhaps get your message through and get it taken seriously a little bit more quickly. Of course, messages, she has powers over that. And if you've been asking for a nudge from the Greek deities, I would suggest looking for signs of Iris as well as Hermes to discern whether or not you're getting attention, if your request has been granted, or anything of that nature. If anything, they would probably be used to convey that to you. She's also known for energy. Iris is known for being very swift. If something needs to be attended to immediately, calling for her aid could be a very productive thing for you to do. She has powers over new projects. She's known for kindness, offering support. Does have some relationship to weather because in the aftermath of storms and rain, that's when we tend to see the rainbows in the real world. And so that can also be a sign of her presence. She's playing her part in that natural order. And of course, Iris is also known for her associations with shamanic work. Now, offerings, if you were wanting to work with her, I would suggest dedicating a very colorful sun catcher to Iris. Honor. It's also suggested that you burn lavender or violet incense. Again, you can grow irises, flowers of any color. I love the idea of having this whole bed of irises and then maybe within it, having this special garden shrine to this particular goddess. If you really wanted to work with her and make a special place for her, I think that would be absolutely the way to go. Of course, you can, if you are artistically inclined, creating very colorful paintings with Iris in mind as your inspiration. And because of her services as being a messenger, you can be a go-between for someone if they are needing someone who has a more diplomatic approach to a situation than they do, running errands for other people as a service, and also going out of your way to restore lines of communication with people that you may have lost touch with or whose relationship is, a little bit wonky at the moment and it needs to be ironed out. That's something you could do with respect to her. And of course, you can offer rainwater to her whenever you happen to see a rainbow, which means that whenever it does rain, might be a good idea to go ahead and collect that rainwater. Rainwater has all sorts of magical purposes, but especially if you're working with Iris, I think that would be the kind of water that would really get her attention and stamp of approval. Now, of course, the reason why we get to know these various deities is because they can help us, and Iris is no exception to that. Think about how we are living in a world with just billions of shouting voices, particularly on social media. Everyone's speaking at top volume, but no one is actually being heard. We have this availability of information and knowledge of all sorts, but people actually understanding it, digesting it properly, gaining wisdom from it, that's a little bit more rare. And of course, we have rampant abuse, both in deeds and in words. And we don't have as many people who are trying to create a culture of respect, especially reciprocal respect. But it's Iris who can help us, who can teach us a lot to how we can alleviate these difficulties, at least improve the situation. And of course, none of us has the power to single-handedly change the world all by ourselves, but we can look to our own strength and look to the aid of Iris to find the ability to change and improve ourselves. And when we improve ourselves and it's genuine and not just an act or trying to get attention from people, must be authentic. There's the thing. When that is authentic, it does set a good example for other people. And they may decide, maybe I could improve myself. And then they do. And then you start creating this cascade effect that can actually improve the state of the world. But the only thing we have true control over is ourselves. So it's always got to start there. And that, my dears, is what I have for you on the goddess Iris. I hope you consider reaching out to her, reading a little bit more about her mythology at the very least, because we are going into this season of spring. Everything is resurging. And of course, that means more rainstorms, and we see more visual rainbows to remind us of this goddess's presence. So by all means, check her out. But that's what I have for you today. Next week, we will be talking about the Dagda, who is also important at this time of year. So I do hope you come back for that. In the meantime, let me know what you think about all this in the comments section, and I will see you next time. Bye.